I opened for Johnny Cash in my pajamas. And that's because the night before we had played a gig, and then we were driving a distance to that festival. And because we were driving, I would always change out of my show clothes and put on my pajamas to drive through the night. And then we get to the destination, because we had a motorhome. So you get to the destination, go boom, straight to bed, And we were driving down the highway, and black smoke started just billowing out the back of our trailer. And my dad quickly pulled over and unhooked all the propane tanks and everything. And it was a brand new motorhome trailer, and it was an electrical fire under the fridge, of all things, that started this fire. And it was just the faulty wiring. And so everything, all our clothes, everything was destroyed. But our guitars and our instruments were okay because they were stored underneath in the compartments below. So it was mostly like smoke damage, black smoke. So, but of course, are we gonna like pull out of opening for Johnny Cash the next day? No, because this is show business. And so we rolled up to the festival the next day, me in my pajamas, and the festival gave us each like festival t-shirts to wear. So I opened for Johnny Cash in a festival t-shirt and my pajama pants. Wow. Yeah.
Did Johnny Cash hear of any of this? Because this seems like something that Johnny Cash would just...
I don't think he did. Well, it burns. But yeah. No, I don't think he knew about the lowly support act, but we got, well, I should say my dad and my brother met him afterward and chatted, but I was too mortified. I was 16 years old, and I was like, I'm in my pajama pants, and I was so stupid now, it's like, who cares? Just go and meet Johnny Cash. But yeah, when you're a teenager, things are a little bit more out of... you blow things up that aren't that important. Yeah. So I had this crazy experience years ago of getting to tour with Garth Hudson, which I just that never crossed my mind that would be a possibility in my career. There's a production promoter in New Zealand that they do shows that are just entire songbooks. So they will like choose an album and then have multiple New Zealand artists perform this songbook or perform a whole album. So like I remember we did the White Album by the Beatles, and it was a cast of like all these incredible New Zealand stars, And she reached out to me and said, we're gonna do The Last Waltz, and we'd love for you to like sing Mavis's stuff and sing a couple songs. We're actually going to have Garth Hudson like as part of the cast. And I was like, what? So they had Garth coming out with Maud, Sister Maud, who was his wife, and John Simon, who was the MD for the show, and he was also the musical producer for the original Last Waltz, and produced people like Janis Joplin and all. Yeah, so it was a pretty wild show that I was pretty excited to be part of. But like one of the most surreal moments, we did the whole tour. Garth is like, he was this mad genius, like the mad scientist at the organ. And every night, you never knew what he was gonna do. Like in the songs, he'd play what was played, but then they had these sections where it was just open, like, free for all for him to do whatever he wanted. And it was just like this genius that would just go on and on and on, and all of us just kind of sitting there soaking it up every night. And
the audience had to love that.
Yeah, it was so special, not just hearing, oh, here's what's on the record, like he's, getting to like let him loose, And I mean, both he and Maud were in wheelchairs. They were, very elderly, not well, but had come all the way to New Zealand to do these shows. And we wrapped the tour, and on the final night, we were at the big Auckland town hall. We had performed in a different big theater, and then they had hired out the hall because, as the album had, there was a Thanksgiving dinner. And so as our wrap party, they hosted this big Thanksgiving dinner, which is very unusual. Like, New Zealand doesn't have Thanksgiving. So it was this very like American experience, for people they were like, whoa, this is so weird, and having turkey and gravy and all this stuff. And they had all kind of this big spread of turkey dinner and Thanksgiving dinner on the stage of the town hall, and we were all seated on tables all around on the stage. No audience, just us in this empty venue. It was such a surreal experience. And then we're eating our dinner, and all of a sudden, like, Garth Hudson starts walking, climbing, like there would be 100 stairs up to the grand organ at the top of the town hall. So the town hall organ, I'm told, is the largest pipe organ in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's in Auckland, New Zealand. So he's kind of very slowly making his way up to this organ that's like at the front, and just this grand, kind of spectacle. And one of the tech guys sees him, and he just starts running up the stairs and flipping everything on, like, and he makes his way up and kind of just sits. He's in his like black cloak and his black pants and his black hat, and very hunched over, and kind of hobbles over and like sits down, and then just starts playing, and the whole room just fills like with this powerful, just the might of like an organ like that in a town hall is overwhelming. But for him to be at the helm, and I remember a friend of like one of the band members said, I just looked over at you at one point, and your mouth was hanging open, and you had turkey in it, and you were just like, we were all like truly gobsmacked. We're just like, what is happening? Like, you couldn't dream that up. Like, we're having turkey dinner on the town hall stage. It's empty, and Garth Hudson is playing organ.
The largest organ in the Southern Hemisphere.
Right?
What a beautiful thing to witness.
So like, I feel so privileged to have witnessed that. Oh my goodness. Gordon Lightfoot, it's Mariposa Folk Festival in Ontario, Canada, where I'm from. It's, one of those iconic festivals. And almost every year, he would perform or be part of it in some way if he was home and not on tour. And because it was his hometown. He's so beloved. And yeah, I think it's a highlight of the festival, to be able to catch him. I had actually, but the thing is, a lot of the time it was a surprise. You didn't know when he was going to pop up, because it wasn't like he was on the schedule, but everyone was like, oh, is Gordon Lightfoot going to come, and he was getting quite elderly. This was only a couple of years before he passed away. And so people didn't know if he'd be around. And I had played my set, and I was heading back. I was walking back to the shuttle, got in the artist shuttle, and I said to my brother, I just need to cool down. It was really hot. I said, I'm just gonna go back to the hotel, change, and then I'll come back for the night shows. And I'm like on this shuttle, pull up to the hotel, and my brother texts me, and he's like, Gordon Lightfoot is here. And I'm like, jump back in the shuttle. I was just like, wait. And they're like, what? And I'm like, I gotta go back. So they're like gunning it back to the festival. I jump out. I and I thought I was gonna cool down. I'm like booking it. I'm running all the way to the stage, and my brother is already standing side stage, and he's up there singing, and thank God I caught like probably half of it. And we're standing side stage after he comes, and I'm like, I am a hot mess. Like, I'm just beet red and soaked. And but it was worth it. It was so worth it. He came up stage and took photos with both me and my brother, and yeah, that was just kind of one of those Canadian highlights, music highlights, really. The first time I really got exposed to Loretta Lynn was, I would have been like 14 or 15 years old. My dad said, we were watching a family movie, and he said, "Oh, you've got to see this movie. You're gonna love it." And it was Coal Miner's Daughter with Sissy Spacek. And I watched that movie, and I'd grown up in a musical family, touring in a family band, and so it wasn't like I had never been inspired to play guitar or been in that environment. But there was just something about seeing this woman start from nothing, like below nothing. And I remember watching that scene of her sitting on the front porch with babies all around her feet and the washing machine and picking up a guitar and just strumming 3 chords and writing these country masterpieces. And thinking to myself, oh, well, if she can do it, then I can do it. And even though I'd grown up in a musical family, my first love, I really hadn't gotten into songwriting or picking up a guitar myself. It was just singing. I was just a vocalist. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, I could actually be an artist, like a whole grown-ass artist. And I remember finishing that movie and immediately asking my dad, who was thrilled to bits, but he'd probably for years been like trying to get me to play guitar, And I'm like, can you show me how to play You Ain't Woman Enough, And he's like, sure. And that was the first song that I learned on guitar after like 10 minutes after the credits rolled. That was kind of my introduction to Loretta, and I fell in love with her from that day onward. And we were touring for the better part of a decade as a family band. It was only a couple of years later that we were playing a festival, and we were slotted on right before Loretta. And I was just beside myself with excitement. Like she was my Taylor Swift. I was like that, obsessed. And I stood backstage, watched her whole set right in front, like in the media pit. Watched her and just like, I didn't even want to be side stage. I wanted to see her face, full frontal. And, and it was, oh God, it was hot as hell. And she was in this amazing red gown, sequins, the whole works, and we were all sweating, and she looked like, a queen. And at that time, she had a lot of her family on stage with her, and being in a family band myself, I just felt this like kinship and this solidarity, and again, just kind of reaffirming like, this is your path. You can do this too. There's nothing to hold you back. If the world couldn't hold her back with her circumstances, then nothing's going to hold you back either. And
that's a beautiful thing to take from that.
Yeah.
And she had the guts to sing about things nobody else was singing about also.
That's the thing. Like everything she wrote about, it didn't have to be poetic or abstract. It was just exactly what she meant. There were no, hidden meanings. There was no, I love what Joni Mitchell said once, they muddy the waters to appear deep. There was none of that. And there are a lot of songwriters that are like that, and very famous ones as well, But Loretta was never that, and she never apologized for saying exactly what she meant. And I appreciated that. It was refreshing, and I tend to write the same way, that it's just very direct. This is what it means. It's a story, or it's how I'm feeling. I'm not leaving anything for the imagination, like no guesswork. So I couldn't wait. Afterward, she went back on her bus and she changed and came back out, and there was, of course, a huge group of people, even backstage, that wanted to meet her. And everyone was handing her flowers and asking her to sign things, and she was just absolutely swarmed. But I just stood there waiting patiently, and my dad was standing next to me with the camera, and just waiting. And we waited probably an hour. She was talking to everyone. She took time for everyone. That was an inspiration as well. Someone who's been in this business for decades and decades and still has that generosity and that grace to keep giving of themselves. Because she didn't have to. She could have just gone on her bus and stayed on her bus, And she stood out in that heat and met every single one of us. And I had my little dog-eared copy of Coal Miner's Daughter. It was yellowed and had been read multiple times. And so I finally got to meet her, and she signed my book, and my dad snapped our photo, and that was kind of the moment I had with her. It was just burned in my mind, getting to meet your heroes, and especially one that shaped me so much and kind of gave me permission to be who I am. I was thinking of another festival that I played. I think it was Dauphin, Manitoba or something. And it was the first time we saw Sleep at the Wheel. And me and my brothers were total country swing nerds, Western swing, and loved to Sleep at the Wheel. And I remember sitting through that whole set just being in awe and loving Ray Benson. And Cindy Cash Dollar was on pedal steel, and I was like, what? Such a badass, so amazing, and being so inspired. And, I'm now managed by Sam, who manages the wheel, who is the son of Ray Benson. And I said to him one day, I'm like, what's wild is I remember our dads talking backstage, which is really special because my dad's gone now. And to now have almost this connection of your family met my dad, And, but we were talking, and I'm like, isn't it wild that you were probably there? He's the same age as my youngest brother. And it's wild to think that they probably were playing backstage. They were 10 years old, probably running around backstage and being like, oh, another kid. We get to play in this adult world, that you rarely get to see other kids. And it fully could have happened that he and my brother Todd could have been playing backstage, and who would have thought that decades later he'd be my manager and I'd be living in New Zealand and all this stuff has happened. It's crazy how the world works.
Really.